That's why I don't want metals to go to the moon overnight, because who will be able to buy them when everyone wants to sell? Slow rise and long-term gains is the way. It's like all the stackers hitting the lottery at the same time with no way to cash out. So this very good comment came from my last video where we interviewed Mike from Mid-America Coins and we talked about the demand a coin shows, and this is what he had to say on that subject.
The thing I worry about, and I was talking to some other dealers down there, we all went to dinner, we all worried about it, is we're selling millions of dollars worth of silver in the last few weeks. If it all dumps at one time, you know, it's going to be probably a little hard for us because we ain't going to be able to buy everybody's.
So obviously that viewer made a very good point, and you know, it poses a very good question. If silver were to get to $50 or $75 or even $100 an ounce in normal market, in other words, not because the dollar crashed, but just because silver just started trading for way higher than it is, who's going to buy it? Who's going to buy it all when everyone wants to cash out and take their profits? Because like she said, it would be like a lot of people winning the lottery all at once. And where are we going to be able to sell it? So I want to talk a little bit about that in today's video, so be sure to stick with me, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. I definitely appreciate it as we continue to grow. Make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win a full monster box of Silver Eagles by going to our sponsor sdbullion.com/silverseeker and get your entry today. So like I said, that comment really poses a great question, and I want to talk to you a little bit about it from my perspective, and then we are actually going to even call a local coin dealer who we have had on the channel before and get their opinion. They don't even know I'm going to call, by the way, so hopefully they answer. But let's just imagine that it does happen. Let's say silver, you know, very quickly gets to $50, $75, even $100 an ounce in normal market trading, in a normal economy. In other words, if silver got to $100 an ounce, and $100 was worth, you know, then what it is today. In other words, you can buy roughly the same amount of stuff with a $100 bill then as you can today. Well, that's going to be very compelling to want to sell some of my private stack. Now, I've said many times, you know, the majority of my stack, you know, when I buy most of my silver, I buy to put into my private stack. And that is something that I don't plan on touching for the rest of my life, you know, unless I actually need it, if we get into that, you know, unthinkable scenario, which none of us really want to happen, at least most of us don't. If we get to that unthinkable scenario, that's what it's there for. But at the same time, if it hit $100 an ounce, you know, I would want to sell some of it, because at the end of the day, we've said this in many videos before, cash, you know, still runs the world, especially here in the US. The US dollar is huge, and we all like to live as well, right? So if it gets to 100, maybe, you know, we want to go on that dream vacation, or maybe we want to pay off our house, or, you know, buy a nicer house, or buy a house at all if you don't have one yet, or maybe you want to buy a new car. And it's going to be very hard to not want to sell your silver when it gets there. So what happens? Because even I, like I said, and you guys know me, I'm very much a fundamental stacker. I don't buy silver because I think it's going to do that, but what if it did? Even I would want to sell some of it. And it's not just me, it's you and a lot of other people as well are going to want to sell some of their silver when it gets to that point, if it were to get to that point. This is very much a hypothetical situation. And what happens when everyone wants to sell? Well, a lot of local coin dealers probably aren't going to have enough money to hold it all. And additionally, they're also going to have trouble buying it because they may not have anywhere to send it either. So right now, if you think about it, like the big online dealers like SD Bullion and APMEX and the others, they actually buy silver from you directly. And right now, for example, SD is paying, you know, over spot for 1 ounce silver rounds. But if we got to $100 an ounce and everybody's selling, if you think everyone's going to buy silver rounds for spot or over spot or spot, you're nuts. It's probably going to be quite a bit under spot, because they won't have anywhere to go with the silver either. Because in that scenario, there's not going to be a whole lot of buyers, and there's going to be a whole lot of people selling, which means there is going to be an overabundance of available silver for purchase, for investment, stacking, hoarding, whatever you want to call it, you know, hedging. Whatever you want to call it, there's going to be a lot of people that are selling it and way less buyers, which means there's going to be a ton of it. So, you know, not only are you going to have trouble finding dealers that can buy it all because they just don't have the capital to do so, those dealers may not even have anywhere to ship it off for a decent price, which means they are not going to be able to give you anywhere close to market value. Now, obviously, everything I've said here is hypothetical, and we've actually talked about before how I said many times that the physical silver buying and selling, the physical demand doesn't really affect the COMEX. So I could even see a situation where everyone is selling their silver, you know, physically, the stuff they have for investment, and it doesn't even affect the COMEX price, but you start seeing a crash in premium. So like now, like I already said, like your big online dealers like SD Bullion and APMEX are actually paying over spot for silver rounds. But if we get get to where, everybody wants to sell because silver is so high, not only are your local dealers probably not going to have the money or the capital to be able to cover it all and buy it all from you, but they may not even want to, because the online dealers may be buying it, even their wholesale buyers may be buying it so far back of spot that you wouldn't want to sell it anyway. If silver gets to $100 an ounce, what does it matter if you can't find anyone to pay you more than, $75 an ounce instead of 100? Granted, 75 would still be a big profit for a lot of people, but it would be a hard pill to swallow for anyone to sell their silver at that far below market value. So you would have to find, an industrial buyer, and they only want to buy in massive quantities. So yeah, there's a lot to worry about if that were to actually happen. But again, like I've said many times, everything we said here is hypothetical, and I really don't think it's going to get there anyway. So let's go ahead and finish out this video by just making a very quick phone call. We're going to call Josh from Minot Bullion, and he doesn't even know I'm calling, but we're just going to call him and see if he would give us a little bit of insight to this as well. So let's hope that we can get him on the phone.
Good morning.
Hey, Josh, it's Silver Seeker. How's it going?
I know. I got your number saved. Going good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hey, listen, I just got a quick question for you. If you wouldn't mind me recording it for a video, are you okay with that?
Sure.
All right. So my question is, I'm actually doing a video talking about what would happen if in a normal market, in other words, our dollar doesn't crash, but we still see silver start trading for $50, $75, or $100 an ounce, and everyone wants to sell. How would coin shops be able to handle that kind of influx?
That's a great question. I've had that question come up, and it's something I've thought about a lot lately, just given the amount of sales that I've had in my own shop, because I think there will come a point where there is going to be a big mass selling. There's no easy answer. I mean, obviously, coin shops can only take on so much, product and pay out so much. We all have finite amounts of cash on hand.
Right.
I can tell you, it's been my experience. I've made several mid six-figure purchases over the years, and I've just frankly got other dealers involved. But the situation you're speaking of, it sounds like it could be a nationwide type thing. I honestly don't know what's going to happen. But as long as there's always people buying.
Right. So in that situation,
it shouldn't be too big of an issue.
Let me pose this question to you. So in that situation, a lot of people are going to want to sell. In fact, even myself, if it got to $100 an ounce, again, in normal market, not because the dollar crashed. If the dollar crashed, I wouldn't sell a dime. But, in a normal market, if it got to $100 an ounce, even I would want to sell probably 30, 40, 50% of my stack. So there wouldn't be a whole lot of buyers in that situation, I would imagine. So do you think shops would buy at a much lower, back of spot, quite a bit back of spot? Or do they have big online, the big online bullion dealers that they could buy it and then ship it to? I mean, just this is all hypothetical, obviously. No one's holding you to anything, but you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. Okay. Well, I can touch on that. I'm in a wholesale vetted, highly vetted dealer group that I pay to be a member of. There are contacts within that group. There's people from AppMex. There's people from Upstate. There's people from Heritage. There's people from Elemental. I mean, there's people in that group that are some of the big bullion places. So they're always actually on the lookout to do big buys from within that group in circumstances like you just explained, where a dealer comes across a large amount of whatever. Let's say they buy 100 gold buffaloes. Well, that's more than they want to carry. They'll post it in the group, and a lot of times one of those bigger outfits will purchase it, and now it just becomes for sale on their website. In that situation where everybody's maybe selling, it's tricky. Because if there's not necessarily buyers, some shops just might have to close their doors. I mean, I really don't know.
Yes.
But I will touch on one more quick thing. When silver got to almost $50 an ounce in 2011, I wasn't a dealer yet. I didn't become a dealer till 2014, but I was aware of what was going on in the markets. And my father actually worked for free. He volunteered his time at a coin shop in Arizona, in a suburb of Phoenix, while he winters down there. And during that time in that coin shop, there was a line out the door of people both buying and both selling when it was almost $50 an ounce. Now, to answer your question about the buy side, the premiums essentially vanished. In that particular shop, it didn't matter if you had a Silver Eagle, It didn't matter if you had a fancy hand-poured piece. It didn't matter if you had a silver round. You were going to get a round spot price per ounce.
Oh, wow. That brings up...
the prices were so high.
That actually answers a question I wasn't going to ask, but I've talked about before, you know, where you get to that point to where everyone was like, look, you know, silver at that point, it's, you know, it's so high. We're just, whatever it is, we're just going to buy it for silver. But
exactly. The premiums disappear then. Yeah.
I guess you could see in that scenario, if it gets to 100, there could be speculators that would think it's going to continue to go up. So they would want to buy. So maybe the buyers wouldn't completely disappear. But I mean, obviously,
yeah,
go ahead.
Well, and that's what that particular dealer saw. And frankly, I was a buyer when it was almost $50 an ounce.
Right.
And I was still buying then too. So I buy on the way up, I buy on the way down. So
Fair.
I think there's always going to be a market for buying, but there are periods of time where the influx of sellers is going to overwhelm the amount of buyers, and shops will get into difficult positions. Honestly, it's the opposite of where we're at right now. There's so many buyers right now and not a lot of sellers.
Right.
So inventory levels are low, where in the opposite scenario, inventory levels are going to get pretty high, and then you're going to start seeing difficulty to finance those purchases within the shop if you can't move the product quickly.
Well, like I said, it's all hypothetical, but it was certainly a question that was posed in a comment on one of my other videos. And, you know, I'm doing this. I'm like, maybe we'll just call Josh and get his insight. So, Josh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. Nice to talk to you. Have a good one.
You too. So there you go, guys. That was the perspective of Josh from Minot Coin and Bullion. We've had on him before, and definitely some great insight there. And it was crazy to hear him say, you know, some shops may even have to close their doors. But again, everything, and I've said this multiple times, everything in today's video is speculation, but I would love to hear what you think. So do me a favor, leave that comment down below and let me know. Also, do me a favor, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And if you want to see that full interview I had with Josh from Minot Coin and Bullion a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to put it right here. That's the next video you should watch. All right, thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time.